Hey, what's up guys? Bucky here. Just hanging out here in Bermuda and inspired to share a message with you. And one of the things that I want to say, because I talk about this idea of inspired action a lot, is that, Facebook Live for me becomes a space for me to share. It becomes a space for me to be live and interactive with you. It's an awesome space for me to follow through on something that is showing up inside of me. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you speaking that truth. I appreciate you feeling that truth, because I think in a lot of ways, we are all connected. And, I'm connected to you. I'm connected to who you want to become. And I'm also connected to serving you in the ways that I can. It's part of my calling to be in the space of service, to give the things that I know how to give, and to share the perspective and the things that I've used in my life in order to shift my life for where it is today. And I'm still in work, right? We're always still in process. It's the infinite ascent. And it's the beauty of the work. It's enjoying the process, enjoying the work that really makes life beautiful. So just want to say hello. What's up, Mateo? What's up, Kate? How are you? Again, comment below. Let me know if you can hear me all right, if you have questions or where you're coming from. If you're watching the replay, hit #replay. I'm always here to answer questions. But I'm here in Bermuda, and I'm just wrapping up with a at-risk youth program, and we've just recently brought in their coaches. They're gonna have coaches every single week for the next 8 months. We brought in their parents for the last couple days, and we've built some community, which has been amazing. But one of the things that I want to talk about today is this idea of living a life of balance. And so often in our lives, it's a topic that comes up for us, especially as we become working adults and we realize the responsibilities that we have. And I think for a lot of us that have been adults for a while now, right, who have had responsibility for a while now, it's easy to compromise on the things that we want to do, or the things that are important to us in order to take care of our responsibilities. And I'm here to share with you today that you can have both. You can do it all. You can have a life of fulfillment and also have a life of service, and also have a life of accountability and responsibility, be able to serve in the ways that you want to serve and be able to be in the ways that you want to be. But you have to be disciplined, and you have to be clear about what that is that fills you up. So when we talk about balance, typically we think about a couple different things, right? For adults, we think about family, and we think about friends, but more importantly, we think about work, right? We think about work and we think about family, or we think about work and we think about friends. And oftentimes in general, when we think about balance, we think about these two arms to this scale, and that one has to equal the other. But the truth about it is, for us, is that balance has to do with a lot of different things. And the definition of balance is, what are the things in my life that I do that allow me to be my best self? What are the things that I do that allow me to live my best life? So we have to take account for that, right? One of the first steps is just taking account for the things that fill you up. So here's my suggestion to you. My suggestion to you is to grab a piece of paper, and to, on that piece of paper, write your name in the center. And after a couple moments of reflection, kind of cluster format or mind map format, think about all the things in your life that fill you up. If you were a gas tank, right? What are the things that allow you to be full or fulfilled, right? Emotionally. So for me, it's family. For me, it's friends. For me, it's time in nature. For me, it's a level of connection. It's also finances. It's also making sure that I'm taking care of my physical health. It's making sure that I'm taking care of my emotional health. There's all these different things, right? It's making sure that I have enough money to take care of my responsibilities. It's travel, it's adventure, it's communication, it's community, it's friendship, right? There's so many things that fill us up, and the invitation right now is just to listen and to answer that call, maybe for the first time in a while, and just to say, hey, what are the things that fill me up in my life? And that's kind of step number one. And I think, you could stop this video, you can stop this live, and you can take the time you need, you can re-step it. I'm going to be going through a step-by-step process so that really you can have the things that you want. And I'll give you the insight to this all. The insight that it comes down to is a couple different things. One is about having clarity, and two is about time management. It's about, how do I spend my time directed towards the things that I want? And, where's my level of accountability towards valuing my time in that way? Because the truth about it is that everybody has the same amount of time. And the difference between those who achieve and those who are fulfilled and those who experience both is that they use their time in a different way. And they're very mindful of their time. It's one of the most precious commodities on the planet is time. And the question is, how do you spend it? How do you spend it? What do you do with that time in order to keep you fulfilled and achieving in the ways that you want to achieve? But first things first, again, name on a piece of paper. What are the things that fill you up in your life? What are the things that when they're happening, you feel like you're your best self and you feel like you get to do the things that you want to do and you feel just full? Because so many times in life, we have to expect the unexpected. We have to expect that our family is going to pull us in certain directions, that our career is going to pull us in certain directions, that, you know, our passions or our adventures or our friendships, that things are going to happen. Financially, we're going to be pulled in different directions. And instead of allowing life to pull us, we have to pull life in. We have to get clear about, hey, this is what I want. This is what makes me fulfilled. This is what makes me feel good. And at the end of the day, if I want happiness and freedom and joy and achievement, I have to recognize those things and pull them in close. And when I pull them in close to me is when I get to create that balance. So back to the piece of paper. Your name's in the middle, all the things that fill you up. And then outside of that, what are the details within those categories? So for example, let's take a simple one that maybe all of us can relate to. If I look at family, for example, what are the dynamics within family that allow me to be fulfilled? What kind of things do I need to do with my family? Do I need to have a level of connection, physical connection? Do I need to have a level of emotional sharing? Do I need to have some type of communication? What are the dynamics within that, let's say, that area of our lives that are important for us? So maybe that's physical. Let's talk about physical, right? Maybe it's going to the gym, or maybe it's doing yoga, or maybe it's a hobby that you love doing. For me, I know surfing is one of those physical things that when I do it, it allows me to be really full in my life. Maybe we talk about finances. For me, you know, it's not good enough just to be paying check to check. For me, it's about having a savings. It's about building a legacy. It's about investing in myself and my business. It's about investing in my well-being. So the idea here is that you're looking at what it means for you, and you're getting clear about what those descriptions are within those categories are. So when I talk about family, when I talk about friends, when I talk about finances, when I talk about relationships, what are the specifics in those categories that allow me to be full, right? And you're going to spend some time doing that. It's probably going to take you 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes just to get as clear as you need to. And again, you can stop this video and you can watch it at another time. And if you're live right now and you have a question, what's up, Lisa? How are you? If you're live right now and you have a question, then you can go ahead and type that in and I'll respond to it. But this process is really about the assessment of what you want. And, you know, a lot of people are famous for saying these words, right? People don't know what they want, or people don't get what they want out of life because they don't know what they want. People don't live a life of fulfillment or achievement because they're not clear about what's going to get them there. And this is really the first step, is getting grounded and clear and saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what's important to me. This is what allows me to feel this way. And it doesn't mean that you're locked to them, right? You can always change. We're always in the space of growing and evolution, right? So this is one of those things that you want to do as it feels right for you to do it, right? But take the time for you. Take the 30 minutes or whatever it is and sit down and spend some time with yourself, asking yourself these questions and going through the details from a space of, I think it's a really space of thoroughness. It's like, what is really there? What are the things that really make me feel good in life? And how are the ways that I would like to express those things? So moving on, once you have those things, right? Now what you should have on a piece of paper is you should have your name. From your name, a bunch of different categories. From those categories, a bunch of different details associated to how you want to follow through on that. Now, what's interesting and what you'll start to see in your life is you'll start to see a disconnect. You'll probably see a disconnect from a life, what life would be like if you lived fulfilled, and versus what life is actually like. And for some of us, there'll be more of a disconnect than others. And very quickly, what you'll start to realize is like, wow, there are a ton of things that fill me up in my life that I'm currently not doing. And this is where the fun part gets in, you know. So once you have that done, what you're going to do is you're going to look at time, and this is where the time management piece comes together. So think about the number of hours on average, and this is all going to be averages, and you can get more specific later. But on average, how many hours a night do you sleep? You know, I think for most people, it's anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. So if you think about a 24-hour day, you minus the 6 to 8 hours, you end up with 16 to 18 hours, depending on who you are. Right? And then you think about work, right? What are the things that you have to do? You know, maybe you're an entrepreneur in your life. Maybe you're a business owner and you have the flexibility to make your own hours. Or maybe you work a 9 to 5 where you have to be in a certain place from a certain time. Whatever that is for you, subtract those hours, right? So for most of us, we're going to be taking 6 to 8 hours for sleep, and we're going to be taking 8 to 10 hours for work, right? So we take those things out. We end up with, you know, let's say, about 8 hours for most of us. Now, with those 8 hours, the question is what do you do with that time? And how do you spend it? And when you look at the different things that you've written down and what's important to you and what keeps you full, think about the percentage, right? If I had 100%, how much time would I need to spend in each area in order to be fulfilled in my life? So if I look at family, I might say, well, when I just ask myself that question, one of the things that comes up for me is like 25%. If I spend 25% of my time with my family, then I'm feeling really good. If I spend, for some of us, it's going to be different. For others of us, it's going to be like, 10% is good. I spend 10% and I'm good. If I look at, my finances, I might say, finances are really important to me. I need to spend 30% of my time, 30% of my focus in that. And for others of us, we say, finances, I'm doing pretty well. I could spend 5, 10, 15%, right? Now, if I take that 8 hours or whatever time is left and then start to divide it into a percentage, I should end up with a number. So for example, if I say 8 hours of my day that I have to manage, and I want 10%, let's just use the easy number, then I have, 0.8 hours, right? So 0.8 hours ends up being like 45, 50 minutes. And then you get to ask yourself that question, well, is that gonna leave me full? If I spend 50 minutes doing this thing every single day, will allow me to be fulfilled in my life. And for some of us that will be yes, and some of us that will be no. But the idea is that you're getting all of this very clear into a time. So that at the end of this exercise, you realize, okay, cool. In order for me to be fulfilled in my life or to have a level of fulfillment, then I need to spend X amount of time doing these things. And the realization that you'll have in a couple different ways. What's up, Daniel? What's going on, brother? The realization that you'll have could be a couple different ones. One is that, man, I don't really manage my time that well. And there's a lot of things that I say I want to do that I don't end up doing. And because I'm not conscious of it, because I'm not planning for it, it doesn't get done. The other realization that you might have is like, man, I spent a lot of my life sleeping. And if I just slept 2 hours less a night, then I would have a ton of more time to do the things that I want to do, right? Maybe the other thing is like, man, I spent a lot of my time in a job that I don't like. And I'm going and spending my life doing the things that don't fill me up, and it's killing me inside. And, all those insights bring up different conversations, right? And really, this process does a lot of things for people. I think one of the things that it does is it gets people really clear, it gets people really focused, but it also gets people to start asking better questions. One of the things that Tony Robbins talks about a lot is the quality of your life is based on the quality of questions that you ask, right? So maybe instead of saying, how can I pay these bills? Or what should I do for a living? Maybe one of the things you might want to say was, well, how do I, live a life where I'm making, great money, making a difference, traveling the world, have the freedom to spend my time with my family, and also have the freedom to, to do the things that I want to do. Maybe that's a better quality question. And I think that's one of the things that's so powerful about this is that it forces you to really get clear. It's like, wow. There is a massive disconnect between what I live on a day-to-day and what fills me up. And again, the invitation is to be in that and to be okay with that and to look at, is it time for a shift? And is it time for me to do something else? It was cool because I just did this recently with a bunch of the parents and a bunch of the coaches. And one of the things that came up for them was, I realized that I need to travel more often. And I said, yeah, that's awesome. And we're all in a transition phase, right? Like once we see the gap in our life, how do we transition from where we are to when we want to be? And it doesn't mean, you go quit your job. It doesn't mean that you say, I'm just not going to be responsible anymore and I'm just going to do this thing. And for some of us, it might mean that, right? But for most of us, we have people that depend on us. We have a level of accountability that we need to show up in. And we have people that are counting on not only our time, but also our dollars, the dollars that we earned. And right now, we might be in a situation where we need to keep that job. And we need to do these things in order to be responsible so that we can pay our bills. It's always about paying the bills. You just have to find better ways to do so, right? So what I said to him was, hey, what does travel really represent for you? What does travel really represent for you? And is it about, taking 2 weeks off work and going to a different country and getting on a plane and doing all this stuff? And in some ways I get that it is, but what is the emotional why behind the travel? What is it that you're really looking for? And in that question, he's like, well, I'm looking for adventure. I'm looking for newness. I'm looking for something different. And it's like, great, you can have that right now. You don't have to get on a plane and go take off work for 2 weeks. You can start to leverage where your life is right now by creating those moments. What are the other things that you can do in order to create adventure? Can you do something new a couple times a week? Can you meet new people? Can you challenge yourself? Can you step outside your comfort zone consciously? Like, I'm in the grocery store, I'm hanging out, I'm buying groceries. I have a moment when I could talk to the grocer or not, right? It's always that moment, right? You're about to pay, you're kind of sitting there awkwardly, and you can say hello and you can start a conversation or not. It's really up to you. And am I willing to step across that edge in the love of adventure and travel? If that's something that I need and that's something that fills me up. So that's also a really good point, is how do I start to bridge the gap, right? And I talked about this in the last video, but how do I start to bridge the gap and move from one space to the other? And I think the distinction that I didn't make in the last video is this, is that there is an emotional why behind the things that you want. And the things that you want on a physical level, most times, represent an emotional why. And if you can meet the emotional why, in the meantime, in the short term, it will support you in meeting the physical why. Does that make sense? It will leverage you in the need that you have till you can craft your life, you can craft your physical environment to support you to have the physical why, right? Or supposed to support you to have the physical outcome. So the reason why I share this is because, obviously a lot of the things that come up for people is that they say, well, I have these responsibilities. I just can't quit on my life. I just can't let go of everything. And, I have kids and, I have responsibilities. I got a car payment and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, I get that. I get that because I have them too. And we can start to bridge the gap. We can start to bridge the gap emotionally, and we can ask ourselves better questions so that we can get to better outcomes, so that we can start to live a life. What would it be like in your life, instead of spending 8 hours at a job you don't like, what if you spent 8 hours a day at a job that you love? What if you spent 6 to 8 hours a day in a business and having the freedom to spend your time with your family or your friends or doing the things that you want to do? What if you could design your life to reach the outcomes that you're looking for? You can. And it starts with this. It starts with the recognition. It starts with this process and the realization of, man, I just need to ask myself some better questions. And if everything is possible in my life, right? If all things are possible, then what do I need to do differently? What do I need to do differently in order to create the life that I want? So with that said, I see you, Daniel, giving you lots of love too, brother. We'll talk to you next time. If you are watching the replay, hit #replay. If you have questions, send me some questions. If you enjoy these things, then hit some like buttons and let me know. Give me some feedback. I love doing these lives because I know, from a personal level, that there's always someone on the other end, and there's, my hope is that if that somebody is you and that you're still watching, that this is of service to you in some way. And just know that we're connected and I feel you and I hear you. And that's why I'm picking up the phone. So sending you love. Know that we're here. We'll see you next time. Peace.